Hello everyone, welcome to the Euractiv's Now Europe program. My name is Karolina Zbytniewska and I will have a pleasure of speaking with Andrius Kubilius, former Prime Minister of Lithuania, today the member of the European Parliament with the European People's Party. Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you foresee the impact of the rise of the right and the far-right parties on the European Parliament's new mandate and its legislative agenda?
Well, first of all, I would say that the changes are not so big as everybody speaks about. Of course, radical right increased by 50 seats. Accordingly, Liberals, Renew, and Greens, lost the same amount. So definitely policies are shifting to the center-right and to the right side, but I do not foresee any major, challenges generally for most important policies. For example, security, foreign affairs, developments in the east of European continent.
So the fact that Viktor Orban has the third biggest party group in the European Parliament doesn't mean too much in your view?
Nothing very new, because again, they have been in the parliament before. Mm-hmm. Now they are grouped into some kind of special, new group with the title of patriots, but I would call them, nationalists, not patriots. And as I said, 50 seats. The changes around of 50 seats. Usually when we were voting for most important issues on Ukraine, against Putin and so on, we were getting somewhere around of 75% or 80% of the votes in the previous parliament. Now we can get maybe less, but it will be,
still a majority.
Yeah, still a majority, and comfortable majority. Mm-hmm. Second, what we need not to forget is that the changes are happening not only in the European Parliament. When we are talking about European Union as such, we should look very carefully into Council of the Heads of States for European Union, where EPP is, increasing its numbers, and EPP now has almost half of the seats in Council of the Heads of States.
You mean the European Council?
Yeah, European Council. And it means that EPP is becoming a dominating political force in the whole European institutional arrangement, with the biggest group in the European Parliament, with half of the seats in the Council of Europe, European Council. And it will mean that really the policies will, move into center-right, direction, which means that, security and foreign affairs will be perhaps policy strengthened with big ambitions. I can expect that protection of external borders will be strengthened. Maybe Green Deal will stay as it is, but it will be, implemented with a little bit more of, attention paid towards industries. And,
so competitiveness.
Yeah, and competitiveness will be, one of the priorities. So that is what we can expect.
Okay. And can we expect that Ursula von der Leyen will be re-elected?
I very much expect, and definitely, she did a very good job in the previous commission. And now, especially when the war is going around and Europe is facing, all those geopolitical challenges, and it was very clear during elections that the voters were exactly looking into that issue as most important issue for the whole Europe. So for political parties here in the European Parliament to start to play some, what I would call party games or intrigues against, Ursula von der Leyen would be a very big mistake. And the responsibility of elected members of European Parliament is very big, especially in those circumstances. And especially when we are getting, letters from Ukrainian friends who are very much concerned about, what will happen if really, European Parliament will fail on Thursday, to vote in favor of Ursula von der Leyen, because first of all, Ukrainians are considering that Ursula von der Leyen together with Roberta Metsola, were playing very important role in bringing, European support to Ukraine very much, up to the next level. And second, of course, losing that vote will create a lot of chaos.
Yes, but devil's advocate question, probably there will be alternative offer instead of Ursula von der Leyen, who might also be a valid candidate.
Well, but it will take a lot of time.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, it's good that, agreement among heads of states was achieved on Ursula von der Leyen quite quickly. Each other candidate, first of all, there will be a lot of, issues in the council. In any case, I predict that in such a case, EPP will present its own candidate again. Mm-hmm. And in any case, that will be very much, a lot of time will be lost. And I know who will be very happy, if it will go in such a way. First of all, of course, Viktor Orban. But second, Vladimir Putin himself.
Of course. Okay, what are your views on the future of the war in Ukraine that we were mentioning already during our talk? And what role do you see the European Union is playing in supporting Ukraine, and what role it can play?
I think that, those are very good questions. And the whole Western community, including European Union, we need to have very clear answer what is our goal in this war. And the answer should be very simple, Either Putin will withdraw his, army by his own decision, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, or he will need to be pushed out by military force of Ukrainians with all the support from the Western community. Mm-hmm. Till now, the Western support, if you look into the numbers, was quite big one, but it was enough only for Ukraine not to lose the war. It was really not enough for the victory, and that is what should be changed, because victory, or let's say pushing Russian army out from Ukraine, depends only on the Western support.
But do you think that even if Democrats will stay in power in the US, they are possible to be persuaded to change their strategy in their approach to the war? Because with Trump, probably that's the game is over.
We don't know, I would not be so much, pessimistic.
Yes.
I mean, of course, Democrats, they were supporting, but again, I would say we need to understand that support of the Western community should be 2 or 3 times bigger than it was till now. Mm-hmm. Till now, if you look into combined West, I mean United States and European Union, GDP of combined West is 25 times bigger than Russian, GDP. So economically, we are much stronger.
But our economy is not yet so much a war economy.
Yeah. But our assistance, to Ukraine, the Western combined assistance, I looked into the numbers of last year. Was the Western assistance to Ukraine was only 0.1% of combined Western GDP. Russians are investing around of 7% of their GDP. We are giving support to Ukraine only around of 0.1%. So we need to increase our support. If we would increase, by 2.5 times, then really we should allow Ukraine to be stronger in the military field with all the needed equipment, than the Russian side. Till now, it's not the case. So what will happen in the United States is difficult to predict. Of course, we saw Democrats which are, more permanent, in their position towards Ukraine. We see now Republicans who are sometimes divided. Trump, it's difficult to predict what will be his behavior. Mm-hmm. And from one side, this is, the challenge. From another side, this is an opportunity, because unpredictability of Trump is what, worries all of us here in Europe. But perhaps it could be also the worry for Putin himself. So in any case, we need to understand that structurally, from the point of view of development of society in the United States, we need to see that Americans perhaps slowly, but they will withdraw from Europe. And we need to invest,
Prepare.
and we need to create our own capacities. Of course, doing that together with Americans, but Americans really, it's not just a problem of Trump.
Sticking to the US and also to the Ukrainian topic, I hear more and more that US experts say that Ukraine will need to give up on some of its territory to secure the peace. How do you see that?
It's 100% repetition of what was done back in 1938 during so-called Munich Peace Conference. When Chamberlain and Daladier, two Western leaders, agreed with Hitler and Mussolini on so-called peace formula. Let's give Czechoslovakia territory, Sudetenland, to Hitler, and Hitler promised peace. When Hitler got that Sudetenland, and also he decided that he can occupy the whole Czechoslovakia, he picked all the Czechoslovakian very strong military industry, and then tanks produced in Czechoslovakia were moving into Paris itself. So I see that the same, those who are speaking about peace according to Putin formula, to give up, to convince Ukraine to give up, some of its territory, they are again moving into the same, mistakes of Munich agreement back in 1938. Let's avoid that.
Okay, strong words. How do you perceive the future of the EU enlargement, still sticking to the Ukrainian topic? So what about Western Balkans? What about the Ukraine? What's your view on the potentiality of the treaties change and how will we manage?
Well, first of all, we need to recognize that after we, Central Europeans, were accepted into European Union and that stage of enlargement was over, then European Union made a big geopolitical mistake. It stopped its own enlargement, philosophy, enlargement ambition, and so on. And Western Balkans were the first victim of that, of that attitude from EU side. And definitely one of the consequences of that, non-ambition for EU to enlarge was that Ukraine was left in some kind of gray zone. Ukraine was not invited before the war to join European Union. There were some nice words, but nothing, was moving ahead. And Putin decided that, okay, this is a signal that the West is leaving Ukraine in some kind of, gray zone, which means, that this is a zone of interest of Putin. So now that mistake should be corrected. There are steps forward, but we need to keep, our ambition on enlargement on a very high level.
So we should see it more in the geopolitical
yeah. And of course, enlargement should go both to the east, Ukraine and Moldova, and maybe Georgia if they will resolve their own domestic issues, but also Western Balkans. And that should be, one very clear priority for this, next term. If European Union would manage to come back to the same ambition and to the same speed of negotiations, as it was done, with Poland, with Baltic states, with Central Europe at the end of 90s. So then we could expect that major job on enlargement should be finished with this next term of next mandate of European Commission. And before, 2030, EU would be ready really to make this very important geopolitical step forward with this enlargement. Of course, there is a need of assistance to those countries, and they need to produce very much needed reforms. It's not easy, especially during the war, but it's possible to do. And of course, from EU side, EU needs to be ready for enlargement, both structurally, institutionally, with with moving towards qualified majority voting, and now also with perhaps the changes in the treaties, if that would be agreed among all the member states. The biggest problem can come, unfortunately, in my view, to the whole enlargement process can come exactly from Central Europe. Because we started to show that we will be afraid of economical competition with Ukraine, especially in agriculture. And if to ask EU member states, are you ready to abandon veto right, you will see that Central Europe is the most ready for that step forward, which is unfortunately a big mistake, and it can become an obstacle. And especially, that's for me, it's quite a strange situation because Central Europeans.
It fits the sovereignism fashion in
Yeah,
the European Union.
Yeah, but I am very critical on this veto right. But when Central Europe will become the biggest obstacle for enlargement, which is so much needed for Central Europe, really, to be in a much more secure environment.
But it's not against enlargement, it's against losing its veto power.
Yeah, but
it's not the same.
But you can imagine that, definitely for Germans and for France and for some other countries, the question how to manage, the whole European Union, if, each member state has a veto right, that is very, very rational question. We need to see, and again, our friends from Hungary, they are showing how Central European countries can become an obstacle in general for management of the whole European Union. So Central Europeans, we are in some way, we need to, we need to settle our mindset, that for us, enlargement is the biggest priority, and we should do everything what is needed in order to achieve, this enlargement.
And what is the time perspective that you see here?
For me, the time perspective is again, 2030. And we need to do that. I hope that, especially, I hope that, quite soon, reconstruction of Ukraine will start. And, private business, big companies from European Union will start to move into Ukraine. Both for reconstruction and for investment, because really Ukraine is a very rich country with a lot of good possibilities to do modern business in Ukraine. And when business will start to come, maybe business will start to make pressure on our governments in Central Europe. Don't be an obstacle for enlargement because
it's called lobbying.
Yeah, so definitely.
Maybe finally, I would like to ask you, because I represent Euractiv Poland, about the Baltic Four. Because Radosław Sikorski, our foreign minister, mentioned in his first annual address the importance of cooperation of Poland with the Baltic states. How do you see the possibilities of this format, Baltic Four, with Poland, of being a working one, an effective one?
Well, I think that absolutely it would be very important to develop such kind of format because definitely Poland is very important, for different regional formats, both for Baltic Sea region, also for Central Europe. But Central Europe, as we see for time being, perhaps for Poland, it's quite difficult to develop some kind of more tight relations with Visegrad countries, starting from Hungary and Slovakia. So this format of Poland and three Baltic states would be really very much needed. And especially that Poland definitely, because of geography, because of its size, because of its geopolitical role, really can play a natural role of the regional leadership, which always is very much needed for our, quite
needed, but also feared by potential partners.
Not so much, I mean, what was a problem that we want Poland to play this leadership role in our relations with Brussels, But when Poland was trying to fight, its fights against Brussels, so for us it was a problem.
But now it's over.
Now it's over. That's why really we can,
Weimar Triangle is resuscitated.
Yeah, we can make good cooperation. Definitely, we are on the borders with Russia and Belarus, and that's what unites us. And it's very clear that we have, some kind of common experience, common history, common views. And for us, the whole strategic goal should be to have an ambitious vision how our policies towards Ukraine, towards other Eastern Partnership countries, with the EU enlargement, with creation of successive Ukraine, Moldova, and then maybe Georgia, and of course, assisting Ukraine to win the war, how all those policies, if they would be implemented in an effective and ambitious way, how that can change situation even in the broader region of the European East, including Russia and Belarus. I see that possibility that positive changes in Belarus and Russia also can come, but if our policies towards Ukraine and towards that part of Europe would be ambitious, targeted, strategical, and geopolitical from that point of view, and here Poland and the Baltic states can play a very important role.
Thank you very much for this great conversation.
Thanks a lot.